Hello, my name is Mohammed Mahmoud, and I'm the director of the Middle East Institute's Climate and Water Program. Welcome to our program's Fireside Chat event series called Innovations in Climate Resilience, where we showcase different practical applications that address climate change vulnerability in the MENA region. I'm happy to announce that this series is back for 2024 after a brief hiatus, and we plan to have more fireside chats from this series throughout the year. Today's topic of conversation will be on the added value that small and medium-sized enterprises bring to the agricultural value chain, highlighting how innovative approaches can make groundbreaking climate technologies and services accessible to a wide range of beneficiaries, including smallholder farmers. We'll specifically look at this approach using the water and energy for food model. With us today to talk about all that is Irene Baghdadi, who is the head of entrepreneurship and MSMEs in Harmonix, Egypt for the last 11 years. And she's also co-established Egypt's first incubation, acceleration, and growth management programs in the clean technology markets. And also with us is Dr. Salma Boughani, who is a serial entrepreneur with a PhD in advanced water treatment processes, who also has over 8 years of international experience in the water industry, working with small and large organizations across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. And I apologize to you both for the very brief introductions, but I really wanted to save as much time as possible for our conversation. But in terms of our next item, I think we'll start off with a brief presentation on this topic, particularly on the water and energy for food program model, as well as an example of a successful application before we kind of dive into our conversation with our two guest speakers. So Irene, I'll pass it on to you to share with us the first part of the presentation before we commence with our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mohammed and team, for this wonderful opportunity. And thank you for all those who are participating. We know it's a really busy time of the year, and we really appreciate that you're taking time off to learn about this extremely important subject, and to meet, most excitingly, Dr. Salma, who's going to present some of the great work that they're doing in Morocco. So about the Water and Energy for Food program, it's a program that's been ongoing for almost 4 years, and it's a result of a joint international initiative between the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, the European Union, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of the Netherlands, the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, NORAD, Sweden, through the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA, and the US Agency for International Development, USAID. And the reason why we sometimes like to start with this slide, other than acknowledging the great work that the founders of this program have done, is because this is truly a unique model of different types of partners coming together from different places in the world to offer a really effective, efficient, and scalable model for the water and energy nexus, the water energy food nexus. So, as I will mention shortly, the Water and Energy for Food program operates in various regions, and I'm representing the Middle East and North Africa hub, which is delivered by a consortium of 4 entities who are really deeply rooted in the sectors of focus and in the countries of focus. The consortium is led by the Baritek Foundation, based in Lebanon, and in partnership with the International Water Management Institution, the Egypt chapter, CWAS and their Middle East chapter, and Chemonix Egypt, which is the entity that I represent, and which manages the technical assistance facility. So as a consortium, we've been supporting entrepreneurs, startups and SMEs in the MENA region and for the MENA region since 1992. We've worked with over 5,000 entrepreneurs and founders in the MENA region, and these numbers are from a couple of years ago. So I think this has increased significantly in the last 3 years. We've worked with more than 150 growth stage water and energy for food enterprises in the MENA region. And we're very proud to have extensive in-house technical assistance and investment readiness expertise, which we're leveraging very strongly in the Water Energy for Food program. And we have staff members and country coordinators in most of the countries in which are targeted through the Water and Energy for Food program in the MENA region. So, what is it ultimately that we do? Why does this program exist, and what are the desired impacts? Ultimately, we're looking to enable enhanced and increased food production along the value chain, downstream, midstream, upstream, through innovative solutions in water and energy savings. We're looking to increase the income for poor and vulnerable communities and women in both rural and urban areas. We aim to sustainably scale the solutions of the innovators which we're working with to meet the nexus challenges, particularly in the MENA region. And we aim to develop a model for the practical promotion of climate and environmental resilience and biodiversity through the sustainable and holistic management of resources, particularly water and energy. So, as I mentioned earlier, the program operates in 5 different hubs. We're representing the Middle East and North Africa hub, based in Lebanon, as the Berry Tech Foundation is leading the consortium. There's a hub in East Africa and West Africa, also in Central Southern Africa, and in Southeast Asia. So it's really a very interesting group of countries, and we have a lot of lessons to learn from each other. And we do this annually in our annual convening, where there's cross-pollination of business models and technologies, and a lot of cross-hub learnings take place. So currently we have an open call for innovations. We've already had 2 cycles that are focused on the MENA region in the last almost 4 years, and we've also had a special call for Iraq, and because of the success of that program, we opened another call for Iraq, which is currently ongoing. And because of the success of the 2 regional rounds, we also have currently an open call for innovations. There isn't a deadline. The call is open until the end of the year, but we highly encourage innovators and SMEs who have a track record of at least 2 years and who are revenue generating and who are registered entities in any of the 10 countries that the Water and Energy for Food focuses on. We invite you to apply for this program if you feel like you have a focus on agri-food value chains, and you are offering water and energy saving solutions. Please apply, and if you go on the website, you'll find a wealth of information on the program, on the selection criteria, on the eligibility criteria, and even the questions in the application forms. We invite you to apply as soon as possible, and that is basically in the next couple of weeks, because while we do not have a deadline, our program ends in the middle of 2025. So we would like as many innovators to benefit from, at least 1 year of support. So for more information in a bit, I'll be sharing the link to the website and the link to the document in which you can apply for your information. So last but not least, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes, Dr. Salma here is the co-founder of Green WE4F. Green WE4F is truly one of the most innovative solutions that I personally have seen in my 15 years of working in this sector. They are working in a very important space in Morocco, given the drought and given the water scarcity in Morocco. They offer a very innovative water treatment solution that they spent probably, I think, around 5 years innovating to be suitable for the Moroccan context, and it's low maintenance, uses very little energy, and basically they work with rural areas and communities to recycle wastewater from households to produce water that is suitable for irrigation. I've seen the system on the ground. I visited one of their end users, and I saw this impact firsthand. So it's truly my pleasure and honor to introduce you to Dr. Salma and Dr. Lahbib, who's also on the call, to hear more about the great work that they're doing and how they're able to really reach a broad group of end users and create impact on the ground. So over to you, Dr. Salma.
Thank you, Irene, for this nice introduction. It's really heartwarming. Great pleasure to be here today and to share with you our journey with WE4F. So my business is called WE4F. It is an innovation that is affordable and low-tech for wastewater treatment and reuse in agriculture for food production. It is low-cost, low-tech, long-lasting solution that can treat wastewater in a rural and decentralized area. We basically work in rural villages, decentralized agriculture farms, hotels, schools in rural areas, and hotels in decentralized area. So basically, we treat wastewater and we use it for food production. And I mentioned here that we reached the best quality in terms of irrigation, which is the quality A, and we can reuse it for the irrigation of vegetables and fruit designated for human consumption. So through this initiative, we are addressing two problems. The first one is water pollution. I would like to mention that in Morocco, more than 40% of the Moroccan population do not have access to safe sanitation service. So wastewater is directly rejected into rivers without any treatment, and it's really harmful for environment and public health. We still have cholera in Morocco. And the second problem is water stress. And today in Morocco, we are living the worst water crisis. And just like 2 days ago, the Moroccan government decided to close all the businesses that consume water, like public hammams, car washing projects, because there is no more water. So we need to find other alternative, and WE4F is one of this alternative, I will say. And our mission actually is really to democratize the access to safe sanitation and water for all, focus on women and on youth. We are basically turning wastewater to tons of food, and our vision actually is to become the leading company in Africa in decentralized sanitation service by delivering the best wastewater treatment solution and promoting the safe reuse practices that improve food safety, health, and livelihood. And yes, we are proud that until now we achieve and we impacted more than 50,000 end users in decentralized area through the implementation of 17 wastewater treatment plants. We reduced the use of 200 million liters of water, and we used it in the irrigation of 350 hectares that is irrigated by the treated wastewater. We produce 60,000 tons of food using this treated wastewater, and we reduce 2.5 million kilowatts per hour. So seeing this impact and the impact that it has on the livelihood of this, the most vulnerable and population, we are just truly proud. And we stop here and to let Irene to present the rest of WE4F initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Salma. I was busy taking snapshots of this amazing slide, even though I have I have the data. But I think it was really heartwarming, especially seeing your growth in the last 2 years. So it's great. Wonderful. Okay, so as Dr. Salma mentioned, the MENA region really faces numerous deep challenges related to water, but also related to energy and related to food security. Just a couple of high-level statistics, and if you look at the bottom right in the MENA region, of course, the MENA region is, and Africa as well, North Africa and the whole of Africa are characterized with the population growth and urbanization. It's expected that by 2050, there's going to be almost 670 million people, 75% of which are urban. Climate change, the impacts of climate change are very real. We're seeing effects of drought, and the statistic says that the frequency of droughts may increase by more than 20 to 60% by 2100. The environmental degradation is costing economies 2 to 6% of their GDP. There's uncertainty in energy prices. The price of fossil fuel are volatile, and we've seen that in Corona, and we've seen it in the last couple of years. There's also uncertainty about the supply of energy and the ability to import critical energy sources. There's, of course, issues related to conflict and migration, and unfortunately, this impacts women disproportionately, and Dr. Salma will be speaking to that in a little bit. There's also a shift to more animal protein intensive diets, which also indirectly contributes to emissions, and of course, water scarcity. This is really a shocking statistic that 60% of the population in the Middle East and North Africa are in areas that are suffering from water scarcity, either in a high or very extreme manner. So this is really a number that is quite shocking. And as Dr. Salma mentioned, the impacts on the ground is real. We see it on the urban level, we see it on the rural level, and we also see how this impacts the most vulnerable communities and smallholder farmers very, very directly, with the changing shift of season, and with dry wells that are drying up, and with sometimes we've even seen farmers use drinking water to be able to irrigate. So this is a really critical issue, and we're lucky to have seen innovators that are working directly on impacting this. Of course, in terms of food security, this is not something that we can ignore, but you'll see that the majority of the MENA region is actually suffering. If you look in the color purple, the majority of the region are facing alarming levels of food insecurity, with the low levels being in very few regions. And actually, you'll see that this has been worsened in the last period with the COVID-19 virus and with the water drought. So it's not all doom and gloom, and we can say this very confidently because through the Water Energy for Food, we've worked with 35 innovators in the region that are tackling these issues very directly, and we see their business model innovation. We see their innovation when it comes to serving the most vulnerable communities and women. With these challenges in water shortage, in energy volatilities, and in food insecurity, comes also large and rapidly growing demand from the economies in the Middle East. We're also seeing that there's a lot of business innovation in terms of the products being developed, in terms of the marketing tools being used, in terms of the supply chain efficiencies that we're seeing, which are really unlocking opportunities. And we see that many of the innovators that are working in the water and energy for food nexus are serving multiple sustainable development goals in one time. And often the at least 6 to 7 sustainable development goals related to poverty reduction, gender inclusion, energy access, and sustainable production and consumption. So on the right, you'll see some of the emerging opportunities that we see in the region. There's, of course, alternatives to charcoal, bio-based coal. We see the growing demand for efficient and smart irrigation systems, for greenhouse for greenhouses or controlled farming environments, for solar-powered irrigation as a replacement to diesel, because the prices of diesel are extremely volatile and they've been increasing at very high rates in the last 5 years. We also see the opportunity for drought-resilient seeds and other types of water-reducing technologies, such as biofertilizers and compost. So We4Food really, our raison d'être, as they say, is really to leverage these innovations, and the innovations are not necessarily technological innovations. We're seeing a lot of business model innovation, as I mentioned earlier, innovations on the supply chain level, innovations in marketing, and innovations in product development. And really our role as the Water Energy for Food program is to help the innovators in doing what they already do best, but in doing it in a sustainable manner and also in a scalable manner to reach tens of thousands of farmers during the duration of the program. So how do we do this? These are the four main vehicles that we use to achieve our ultimate goal of reaching 750,000 farmers, to enable them to adopt water and/or energy-saving technologies. We do this through enabling up to 50 water and energy for food innovators. We've worked with 35 so far. And these innovators, like Dr. Salma's business, like Green1Tech, have high scale-up potential, not just in terms of financial indicators, but in terms of their ability to access vulnerable communities and women and reach tens of thousands of smallholder farmers with their technologies and solutions. We do this through offering technical assistance, and these are consultancy-like projects where we delve deep into different scale-up aspects with the innovators, and each innovator gets between 1 to 3 technical assistance projects, and the topics range from strategic planning to marketing to sales, product development, and even feasibility studies and manufacturing, plant design, and carbon credits. So really, innovators have a broad suite of technical assistances to select from, and we work with them closely on selecting the technical assistance packages that can help them reach higher tons of food, more energy savings, more water savings, and a broader base of end users with a focus on vulnerable populations and women. The innovators can also receive grants up to $300,000, but right now in the open call for innovation, it's up to $250,000. We also leverage these de-risking grants to attract external investments. So our investment readiness team works very, very closely with innovators to help them find their optimal capital structure, identify the most suitable types of investors, and they work with them very closely to de-risk their business models and operational models and be investment ready. This also includes support in terms of ESG compliance. And then the fourth bucket is really enabling partnerships for the innovators that we work with, whether it's with government entities or potential suppliers or buyers, or even among each other. And of course, financial institutions. So far we've supported, 36 innovators have been supported, and collectively, they've mobilized $33 million US, and we're happy to say that we've exceeded these targets. The investment mobilized were in terms of debt and equity. Over 250,000 end users in the agri-food value chain have been served in the MENA region, with about 8 billion liters of water saved. And we're actually going to launch our annual report for 2023 in a couple of months. So stay tuned for that, because we will speak to how these innovators have achieved very significant targets in terms of 20 different indicators, or maybe slightly more. And we also speak in the annual report about how this was achieved. And we go more in depth into the business models of the innovators, and how the technical assistance and investment readiness and other types of support have supported them in achieving these targets very effectively. So that's the end of our presentation, and I'll pass it over to Mohammed for the most exciting part of this webinar.
Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you so much, Dr. Salma. I mean, it's really important to set the context for a conversation. I think the presentation really does that, and I can't help but be impressed with what you all are doing and what you have done. I mean, the series is called Innovations in Climate Resilience, and sometimes we jump to, very technical innovations, which part of it is included here, but I think frameworks like this are also very important to get to those innovations that achieve a level of climate resilience. And WE4F and Dr. Salma's initiative is also very, very impressive in its own merits, but also to have such a program led by, very impressive woman-led effort by someone who has an impressive resume as Dr. Salma is also very, very encouraging for the region. But I have so many questions, but before we start, just a quick note to our audience. If you do feel inclined to ask a question, we do have a Q&A chat box that you can submit your question, and I will do my best to integrate those into our discussion as we move along. But my first question, really, Irene, I'll pose to you just out of interest. I mean, you've laid this out in terms of how the Water and Energy Food Program works, and you've touched on it a little bit, but how do you encourage innovators to participate and become involved in the program? How does the program incorporate strategies for outreach and education? How do you ensure that you have a wide reach to be able to pull in proposals and concepts and initiatives like you've done, for example, with Dr. Salma and others?
Thank you, Mohammed. I think for the first part of the question related to how we encourage innovators to participate, a big part of it is really like any business is to show what's the value proposition of the program. So we do that by highlighting the service offering of the program, as we mentioned earlier, the de-risking grant, the technical assistance, the access to partnerships, and I think the access to networks as well. But I think what's really interesting about this program is that our intervention is more long term. So we work with innovators for at least 1 year, and on average it's been 2 years. And this is also one of the main, I think, value adds of the program, other than the services mentioned earlier, is that we really work with them for an extended duration to achieve their impact, as opposed to many other programs that are maybe 3 months long, 6 months, or 9 months long. In terms of the outreach, that's really an important piece, and we get asked this question a lot. And just when we think that maybe the pipeline may be drying up, we get more and more innovators applying to the program, which is a really good signal. And as I said earlier, the more challenges, the more opportunities we see. And our outreach vehicles are actually really multifold. So we rely on our own network as the 4 consortium members, and the pipelines that we've developed over the years, but we also work closely with implementing partners and implementing entities in the 10 countries in which we target, whether they're NGOs or other incubators or accelerators. The donor partners have also been really helpful in helping us disseminate the calls and referring potential innovators. And we also work with market players like chambers of commerce and federation of industries to refer to us a pipeline of SMEs that they believe fit our criteria. So it's really multifold, and usually it also reflects the market structure in the countries which we're targeting.
That's great. That's helpful to know, and I think also provides a little bit of information for audience or others that may be interested, right, to pay attention to how you sort of conduct this outreach. Follow-up question, and on sort of the bigger picture with all the different participants and partners, whether on the implementation level or on the framework level. From your experience and from what you've seen, what are some of the obstacles or challenges that the Water and Energy Food Program encounters when looking to integrate some of these climate technologies and services into the agricultural value chain? What are some things that you see popping up often that is kind of I won't say inhibiting. I mean, this is part of what the program is doing, is to get over these obstacles and challenges. But what are some of the general or common difficulties you see?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question, and it varies really depending on the country. But I would say it's around three main areas. One is, especially when we're talking about agri-food value chains and innovations that are targeted to agri-food value chains, there's I think, I don't like using this terminology much, but there truly is a lack of awareness of the business case of adopting such solutions. And we have seen how the innovators that we're working with take this on whether it's in terms of their campaigns or the technical assistance that they provide or the advisory service. But awareness, we still have a long way to go to create awareness about the benefits of these technologies, whether it's a solar pump or a greenhouse or treated water. The second bucket is access to finance, because many of these Nexus technologies are capital intensive. So if you're looking at an irrigation system or a greenhouse, like I mentioned earlier, and given that our region is mostly consisting of smallholder farmers, the access to finance becomes even more important because many of these Nexus technologies are more expensive and they're more capital intensive. I think a third challenge is the ability to adapt and tailor the business model to the needs of smallholder farmers, and a big part of that comes from the lack of awareness, maybe, and the lack of access to financing. But there are also other aspects, given that the region again has the majority of your farming clients or of your agriculture clients are smallholder farmers that are in fragmented land and they're dispersed. So business model innovation becomes even more important in terms of your customer acquisition, the kinds of solutions that you offer, the kinds of partnerships that you build, etc. So yeah, I would say the three main themes are awareness, access to finance, and the ability to tailor a business model to serve the needs of farmers.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful to know and understand. Speaking of irrigation and water, I apologize if apparently today is a landscaping day in my neighborhood, so you might hear the loud noise in the back. So it fits the theme somehow. But Dr. Salma, I turn over to you, and Green4F's local level deployment of wastewater treatment and reuse for food production is really an excellent example of what I think is a grassroots climate adaptation effort. And through that process, as you deployed that, I'm sure you had expectations of how things would happen, and I'm sure you had a plan of how to sort of roll out your initiative. But what were some unexpected issues that you faced in the process? And also, besides unexpected challenges or issues, what were some positive outcomes that came about that you didn't even expect to happen, didn't even foresee happening when you rolled out your initiative?
I think that Irene has answered the majority of your question, but anyhow, I will try to resume our experience. We thought when we create our product, which is FISO product, that it is an innovative product and it will be really easy to implement and to address a global challenge, which is water and food security for all. But when we just implement our first project without any holistic approach, I will say, it was just like a disaster, I will say, because actually when you are working with rural population, with the most vulnerable population in the world, then you need another approach. And you really need to work through a participatory approach and to understand the real need of this population. When, for example, we implement the first project, it was only for wastewater treatment. It was not addressed for reuse, because we thought that the treatment is the most important part, because it was just not a participatory approach with this population. And yeah, of course, we understood after that that the most important approach is you need to go to the population, to go first for training, for sensitization, and we understood that we have to address that for men, women, and children. So we work actually through a participatory approach involving men, women, and children. It's workshops and hands-on training to educate them, first of all, about the impacts that's like, for example, wastewater have on their livelihood, the impacts of circular economy, the impacts of water management, and so on. And when we just understood that, so then things change, and the way we are doing that changed also. And one thing that we realized, like, we implemented after that a project for a boarding school of girls, like 273 girls in a rural areas, and we educate them about the importance of water management, about the impacts of sanitation on their lives, and so on. And we were really surprised that when we visited their homes in their villages, we just like realized that they have already educated their families and their neighbors about what they learn. So we just believe that educating one child can impact the entire village. So this is the most important taking out from our experience, I would say.
I really love that. I mean, sometimes we get so focused on big, large scale application solutions, which are helpful, and not to minimize that at all. But you really, I think, in my opinion, you really make a lot of change when you get to the local community, sort of small scale level, because that's the type of change that becomes generational for the reasons that you talked about. Yeah, it also strikes me, Dr. Salma, that from what I understood from your initiative and your application is that Green WE4F seems to have been able to check the box on a number of sustainable development goals and doing that all at the same time. How are you able to do that? Was that by design, intention, or is it just the, by itself, the program was naturally able to meet all those types of sustainable development goals?
Yeah, I believe that innovative technologies have the power to change and to transform the way we are doing things and to address complex and global challenges. And also it can impact smallholder farmers. This is very important. So we believe actually that Green WE4F core business is, yes, it's wastewater treatment and reuse in agriculture, but we do have an amazing social, environmental, economical, and educational impact. We are really improving the life quality of rural population. We are creating job opportunities. For example, farmers do have can irrigate their lands, so they do have more water with more food with a better quality. So they increase their income, and in that way they can support in a better way their families. So it's just a full a new circle of new opportunities, I would say. This is from one side. From the other side, I will say in terms of public health, by applying Green WE4F solution, wastewater treatment, innovative technologies, we are reducing diseases related to wastewater, like diarrhea, like cholera, like salmonella. So this is also key, especially for children. You know that in rural areas, the children are the most impacted by this kind of illnesses. On agriculture front, the solution can, of course, when we are reusing wastewater in agriculture practices, and we know that agriculture consumes more than 80% of available water, especially in Morocco. So we do have we are just saving clean water and fresh water for other uses. And we do have cleaner rivers for everyone. So we are addressing two challenges at the same time. As I said, we are also working on this educational impact. We work through a participatory approach. We educate them about the impacts this kind of solution do on their livelihood and so on. So for the moment, we are addressing at least 7 SDGs from the 17. So it's something it's somehow respectable, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, close to 50%. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
7 out of 17 is pretty impressive. Irene, if I can bring you back in here, I have a question for you on what are some examples from we've talked about Green WE4F, but what are some other examples of water and energy for food program initiatives, applications that have in other ways innovatively addressed energy and water issues for more efficient and improved food production? Briefly, if you can just mention a couple.
Yeah. I will. So Mohammed, I think also I'd like to invite the audience to check out the website, the Water Energy for Food website. You'll see actually profiles of the 135 innovators that are currently being supported and exactly where the innovation lies. But if I were to again, group it into three themes. One is exactly what Dr. Salma mentioned, where the innovation is in the product itself or in the technology. So in the case of Green WE4F, the innovation is in the system itself and how it's maintained and operated, etc., and how it's built. There's also a company called Compost Baladi, and actually many of our alternative input suppliers, so Compost Baladi, Kaitozan Egypt, EG their innovation is in the technology itself and how the products are being produced, how the biofertilizers, the compost, the biofungicides are being produced, the types of materials that they're using, and process itself. So that's one bucket. The second bucket I would say is in the way traditional technologies are integrated. So irrigation technologies have been around for a while. Solar energy has been around for a while, but their integration is what we're seeing is very unique. So many of our solar companies like Raptor Egypt, Green Essence in Lebanon, and Green Eagle Tech. Green Eagle Tech has innovated also on the irrigation side by manufacturing certain components to reduce the system size. But really, the innovation lies in how these two technologies are integrated to offer an integrated or holistic solution for farmers that actually also has a better business case for the farmer. And improves their productivity with a very small premium on having an integrated system. We've seen that these technologies also, that when the innovators combine irrigation and let's say solar power, the innovation also comes in how they enable the financing for these systems. So entities like Green Essence and Raptor Egypt, who are solar providers, they not only offer solar, but now they're integrating irrigation systems and also enabling access to financing for these systems, whether it's through a microfinancing institution or through a bank. Finally, there's also digital innovation. So there are companies like Sowit, which is based in Morocco, that are innovating in terms of their precision agriculture solution. But then there's also entities that are digitizing existing processes like Muzera in Egypt, which actually offers contract farming. Has been around for a very long time, but they've digitized that process and enabled access to technology and financing for farmers. A platform in Egypt is also an example of a precision agriculture, a company, but that works with large food aggregators rather than smallholder farmers. So yeah, I would say these are the three main buckets.
That's there's a lot going on. I mean, in terms of the initiatives, it sounds like. Something that strikes me is maybe looking a little bit down the line, assuming many of these initiatives, even let's say Dr. Salma and Green WE4F's initiatives, assuming they're wildly successful, right? They launch, it works as intended. There's the net benefit that comes out of it. Irene, is there thought or any consideration giving to maybe scaling up some of these applications beyond what they originally started with, or maybe even replicating them or implementing something similar elsewhere? Are there basically opportunities to take what worked somewhere and try to either expand it or duplicate it elsewhere?
So, Mohammed, this is the question that we think about all the time, and we've been thinking about it daily for the last 4 years. And it's a really big question. I think, and it's really, really important that we think about this more, given the, the food insecurity crisis and the water insecurity crisis that we're in. And again, the water energy for food really serves to enable this scale. So we work with entities that maybe work with tens or thousands of farmers, and within a 2-year duration, the goal is to reach tens of thousands of farmers in the MENA region. So the way we've seen that the scale up may take place is and many of our innovators are actually opening up in new markets, as you mentioned. Especially the digital companies where scale up can be a lot faster, and especially in regions that are very similar. We've seen that our innovators also act as market enablers often, and this is what helps them in scaling up. So, for example, Muzera, the company that I mentioned earlier, which offers a digitized solution for contract farming, connects smallholder farmers with large food aggregators and exporters to reach that scale. Because traditionally, in Egypt, many of the countries in the MENA region, and many countries in Africa, the link between smallholder farmers and the large buyers is really missing. And Muzara does that through creating these linkages, but through also enabling farmers through the access to finance and access to technology to enhance their productivity. So it's not just the linkage, but they work with them very closely on enhancing their productivity and access to technology and access to finance. Similarly, with Sowit in Morocco, they work on a precision agriculture technology, which is a software that is quite established, and you'll find many different companies offering it across Africa. But what makes Sowit unique is that they not only offer this software solution that is catered to Morocco and other African countries, but they use the data coming out of farmers to enable for better access to finance from financial institutions that traditionally see farmers as credit thin and unbankable. So they use the power of the data that they get from smallholder farmers to enable alternative risk assessment and to enable access to finance and technology. So this is one of the really interesting ways that we've seen that our innovators are enabling scale. The Water Energy for Food program has also enabled innovators in terms of expanding to other countries through market research studies, marketing studies, and through connecting them with innovators in other countries. For example, Hydroponics Africa, they were based in Kenya, and then they joined the MENA hub to expand into Sudan. Similarly, with Robinson Agri, based in Lebanon, we connected them with innovators in West Africa to act as distributors for them and to act as sales, let's say, partners for them in these new regions. So yeah, I would say the enabling aspect, the market enabling aspect, like what Muzera is doing, the aspect related to access to finance and technology, like what Sowit is doing, and then the hub services in terms of linking the innovators to other companies, potential partners, suppliers, and distributors in different regions.
That's really encouraging to hear. And you actually took it a step further than I intended when you basically mentioned that applications went outside the region or into the region from other regions. That's even more encouraging in terms of that sort of cross-pollination and incorporating in other places, but quite literally other places outside the region. So that's wonderful to hear. Dr. Salma, I turn to you with this question, and you've kind of scratched the surface of this question, but I want you to maybe just dig a little bit deeper. And this is on using the Green WE4F example. What are some of the socioeconomic benefits you saw in local communities as a result of your project participating in the Water and Energy for Food program? You talked a little bit about it, but I want give you an opportunity to maybe expand a little bit more on that.
Yeah, sure. I think that there is WE4F before WE4F and WE4F after WE4F initiative. I will call it like that. And for instance, actually, this initiative helped us to structure our company. And for instance, we do have procedures and we and all the needed manuals of a company. All this stuff are well reported after WE4F assistance. So all our employees in Greenwatex knows really well their roles, because we do have RH manual, we do have procurement manual, we do have ethic manual, we do have all the manuals that anyone can need actually to expand to other regions, to industrialize the process and so on. This is from one side. From the other side, WE4F help us also, so we with access to capital, so we reinforce our team. And the second part is we industrialize our processes. So the price of our products was reduced by 20 to 25% compared to before WE4F initiative. We reduce implementation time, we reduce too many steps. So the end users can afford more. I mean, our clients can afford more our solution, and we can impact too many other people through this, through our solution. And also, I would like to mention that WE4F also require us to measure impacts. Like we do have too many KPIs that we follow, like 11 KPI that we need to report, and this is actually really key because we are following our performance, and we keep, I mean, we are eager to go for other to reach the KPI that we are aligning, but also to target or to have a better social and environmental impacts on our beneficiaries. So yes, I can say that WE4F involvement also enhance our credibility and reputation regarding our stakeholders, customers, suppliers, and partners. So yes, actually, it just plays a role, a catalytic role in our development and our expansion strategy to other regions. So in that way, we can impact a bigger number of end users, and especially, I mean, the most vulnerable population worldwide.
Fantastic. Dr. Salma, I'm going to ask you this question, maybe a little bit broader, but I think just taking advantage of the fact that you're in this role as a woman leader in this type of industry, you know, it's often noted that women are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change, and particularly as you've both touched on, in agricultural communities. In your point of view, how do you see the role of women evolving or elevating in terms of climate resilience?
Yeah, this is actually the biggest question we do have. And my dream is really to democratize the access to safe sanitation service in rural areas. And we are really proud of what we achieved so far, especially with the team of 60% of women in a male-dominated field. We are just proving that female leadership can be different, and it is different, but it can make a big impact and meaningful changes, I will say. And when we work actually as, like, I just tell you the example that's when we just raise awareness for girls in these boarding schools. We just like learned how they educate their families and their neighbors about what they learned. And also in that sense, I think that women are really life bearer, and water is life. So they are just thinking about the future generation in another way. And for example, also when work in rural areas, we just like understand that women are the most impacted people, because when there is no more water in a certain village, then women need to travel, I don't know how many hours to find this water. And this is really risky for their health, for too many problems. So women are women and girls, I would say, are the one who are the most affected by climate change. And they are the one who are able to change and to target this challenge in a different way, but I think that is the most accurate way we can find, actually.
I think that's a very fantastic and poetic way to put it. I liked your analogy of water and life and the role of women. I think that's perfect. It's a perfect way to sum it up. I apologize to our audience. I've been so consumed just listening and learning that I haven't been paying as much attention to the Q&A, but I've looked at it and I feel like we've answered some of those questions through our discussion. Hopefully our audience can parse that information out. But I also see several questions, I think really related to the technical aspect of the Water Energy for Food program, things like application process, funding, that type of thing. But a part of me assumes, Irene, maybe a lot of that is available at the website that you were mentioning earlier, that they can acquire that information there, as opposed to you having to churn it out again right now. But would that be accurate?
Yes, it is. I can just say something really quickly to respond to the two questions. So yes, we do we are locally oriented, and at least in the MENA hub, we're working with entities or for-profit or non-for-profit organizations that are operating in any of the 10 countries that we're working in the MENA region. But if you're a multinational that has a partner in one of these in one of the countries that we're targeting, and the partner should be, you should have this partnership for at least 1 year to show seriousness and commitment. And that partner should be an entity that goes beyond just sales and distribution. Then you can apply, you could be eligible. And then there's a question about if we accept individuals or small group farmers. And unfortunately, the entities that we support must be registered entities, whether they're non-for-profit or for-profit. So we're not able to support individuals or farming communities that are not registered as an entity. So I think these are the two main questions around the program, Mohammed. But definitely, yeah, there's a wealth of resources online that I invite you to look into, and I'll be sharing the link as well on the chat.
Yeah, great. Maybe we'll end with one of the questions I see in the audience that I think is a broad question, but could be helpful to add further context to everything we talked about, which is how climate change affects the supply chain for agricultural clients. I mean, you've touched on it in the presentation, different aspects of what both of you talked about, Dr. Salma, Irene, but is there anything you want to add there, sort of as a final thought, to really maybe drive home why this program exists, why initiatives like Green WE4F exist in terms of the influence and going to be increasing influence of climate change on agricultural clients, just really briefly before we conclude?
Yeah, I mean, through the Water Energy for Food program and other programs that I've been working on, we actually do a lot of site visits to visit the farmers themselves, and we do a lot of workshops to hear directly from them on the impacts of climate change. And just this summer, we visited some of Salma's clients and other WE4Food innovator clients, and really the definitely climate change affects the full supply chain from farm all the way to the food processors and the end consumer. But we've really seen how the impact is so concentrated and so harsh on the farm level. So we've seen how irrigation is almost becoming a necessity because of the disrupting rain patterns, and because of the drought. So irrigation is becoming almost a necessity. We've seen how farmers are seeing new types of pests and more pests, so there's more diseases on the farm level destroying the crops. We've also seen how extreme weather events have completely destroyed the crops of some farmers. Like they can go, 1 or 2 seasons with zero production and zero revenue, and it's happening more frequently. So instead of happening, once every 5 years or 10 years, it's happening more frequently. We've also seen how the seasons are shifting and how the productivity of per hectare of land is changing drastically. So these are some of the impacts that we've seen firsthand, and that our innovators are resolving firsthand. But yeah, I would say if we were to at least from our experience, we've seen that most of this impact is actually on the farm level, and it's even stronger with the smallholder farmers. So yeah, we have, it's a really big challenge. But the good news is that, we are seeing in the same time a lot of innovations that are tackling these challenges. So there is some hope.
Dr. Salma, did you want to add anything to that comment on climate change affecting your initiative?
Yeah, I think that Irene has again resumed all the data about it. As I said, like it's not anymore a choice. Innovative technologies targeting climate change and so on. It's not a choice. It become a necessary solution, and we need to take this initiative seriously, because this is the way to target these global challenges. So, I mean, the policies of our countries need to follow this kind of initiative, more lobbying on it. So, yes, this is the way to change stuff, actually.
Fantastic. I want to thank you both so very much, Dr. Salma, Irene, especially considering filling in for Dr. Ahmed, who was not able to make it due to personal emergency. We miss him, of course, but we're very happy that you're able to join us as well. And just one last note for our audience. This is obviously live, but has been recorded and will be in YouTube in a short while. And so absolutely will be available for repeat viewing and sharing with others as well. So thank you all so very much. Really appreciate the conversation, and hopefully our audience will join us at our next event, Fireside Chat Series and Innovations in Climate.